Alright guys, welcome. So today I'm going to walk you guys through on how to do our project, which is going to be a digital photo collage using Photoshop. So here right in front of us is a few examples of some other past digital photo collages that have been done, and as you see they are quite interesting. Some can be super weird, some can be super straightforward. But the biggest thing that all of them have in common is that they have multiple images that have different elements of the image that has been cropped out and put all together to create one composition. So again, if you look at these different examples, you'll see that not one image is exactly the same, and again, they've been pulled from multiple sources. So with that said, for your project, first, the size requirement is going to be 5 inches by 5 inches. 2, you must take different elements from 10 different images and put them together in one composition. 3, you must give each layer a name, which I'm going to show you here in just a sec. Your collage, your photo collage must include text as well. So on this example you see here there's some text, which again I'll show you how to do. And then last but not least, one of the images that you incorporate into your project must be altered in some way. If that means that you change the color, if that means that you adjust it, that's going to be completely up to you. And again, I'll show you how to do. Alright guys, so step 1, the first thing you're going to need to do is find your images. So remember, for your project you need 10 total images, different images that you're going to take small elements from each and put all together. So for this example, I am going to do something weird, if you will, with Kanye West, and again you'll see through the process and the outcome. But for my composition, I'm looking for an image with Kanye West with his hands up. So I'm going to Google Kanye West hands up. And so I'm going to look through the images, and I'm just going to look through my options. A tip to help you find good quality images is going to be using this option here is tools. If you click on tools, it's going to allow you to change the size. So we want all of our images to be a larger size, because if for some reason the size is of low quality or is technically small, when you put it into your composition and you blow it up or you size it up, it may look grainy. So this is going to help us find high quality images. So I'm just going to look through the available options and I'm going to find the best one, and it looks like here I really like this one right here. So on the image you're going to right click, and if you've forgotten how to right click, make sure you hold down Control, then you click, then you're going to have the options here. So you're going to click Save As, and then you can rename it hands up. And then where, I always click desktop to make my life easier to find the images when I'm working with them. So after I click save, I'm going to go ahead and find my other 10, which you can do as you go, but of course remember that you are going to need 10 total. So here I've already found my 10, and now I'm going to go ahead and open up Photoshop. Alright guys, so remember, when you're opening up Photoshop, you just go right down over here to Finder on the left hand side, the face. Once you click on Finder, you're going to click on Applications. You're going to scroll down and you're going to look for Adobe Photoshop CC. Once you open up that folder, you can go ahead and click on the Adobe Photoshop application. When Photoshop opens, you will see something similar to this. You can go ahead and just ignore what you see and just go straight up to the top and click File, New. File New is going to go ahead and start us and create a new document for us. But before we go ahead and click Create, we're going to need to make sure that our adjustments and our title is correct. So I'm going to label this Photo Shop Collage, and you can name it anything that you'd like, but I'm going to also include my initials at the end so I know it's mine. And then for the width, I'm going to put 5. For the height, I'm going to put 5. And then I'm just going to make sure that this box is selected inches, because again we want it to be 5 by 5. We can leave the resolution the same. We can leave this as pixels. We can leave this, everything basically the same. And then we're going to click create. So after we've clicked create, we now have our canvas, if you will, which again is size 5 by 5. So now to start, we're going to need to bring in the image so we can apply it to our canvas. So in order to do that, we're going to click File, we're going to click Open. So now Photoshop is asking us what image would Photoshop like to open. And you're going to go and find where you saved your images, which remember, I saved mine under desktop to make my life a little bit easier. And I'm going to start with the background to my composition, which is going to be these mountains. Now, once I've selected my image, I just click on the image and then I click Open. And then Photoshop is going to open a new tab. So acknowledge that there's tabs up here. The first tab is my Photoshop collage, and then the second tab is the image that I want to use. Once the image is open, on the left hand side of my toolbar, I'm going to go ahead and select the pen tool. Once I've selected the pen tool, I'm going to need to highlight the outline of the part of the image that I want. And so for this image, I want this lower half. I want the mountains. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start making a point. Now, I can't really see, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in by clicking, or on your keyboard by pressing Command, holding Command, and plus. When you do Command plus, it'll allow you to zoom right in, and you can scroll on over to the beginning of where you want to select. So I've made my first point here, and I'm just going to follow along the line on the areas that I want to crop out. Now, as you're making your points, remember that the more points that you put, the more detail the image is going to be cropped out. So meaning if I just do one straight line, as you see, I'm missing all of this upper half. So let's say I did this on accident and I wanted to go back. You just go ahead and click Command Z on your keyboard, and it brings you back to the last step, and you can just continue. So here, as I click through, I'm just clicking through and making sure that I'm cropping out the entire area that I want to use for my composition. So I'm just going to continue right along. And again, the more points that you put, the more detailed the image is going to be. Okay, so when I get towards the end, I can zoom out by pressing Command minus, and that will zoom out of the image so I can see everything. Now, I've made all of my points along the areas that I want to crop out. Now, in order to make this full selection, I gotta click the same point that I started with to make a full selection. So here, I want this entire mountain. So the next point that I need to make is down over here, because again, I want this whole section. Make my next point over here, and then I'm going to make my last point match up with the first point. So as you see, all of the squares all turn blue, so that means that we have made a full circle, if you will. And then what we need to do next, in order to select what we have cropped out, we need to right click, which remember again, hold Control on your keyboard and then click. That will allow us to right click, and then we're going to go ahead and select Make a Selection. When you click Make a Selection, this little box is going to come up, and you're just going to click OK. And then, as you see here, it has made a selection. You'll see this line, this black and white line, showing you what selection you've made. Again, once you've made that selection, on the left-hand side, you're going to go ahead and select the Move tool. Once you select the Move tool, you can go ahead and select the selection, and then it'll allow you to move it. So here, as you see, it's being cropped out of this image. And then what you need to do is you need to drag it over to your canvas, your new canvas up here, which is on the tabs. You gotta make sure you still hold the image, and then you let go. When you let go, The image will be dropped right into your canvas, and you can go ahead and move it around and place it where you need to. So here, once you're here, you can go ahead and place it where you want it. If it needs to be resized, you can go ahead and press Command T on your keyboard, and when you press Command T at the same time, it will allow you to resize your image. So let's say if you had something that you wanted to put and you want it to be really small, you can size it down. If it needed to be big, size it up. So here, I think about right there is going to be good, and then I'm just going to move it. And then once you're done sizing and everything, you must press enter. If you don't press enter, it's still wondering if you're still wanting to resize, and then it won't let you do anything else until you press enter. So after you've pressed enter, you can go ahead and move on to your next image. But before you do so, you're going to want to make sure that you label your layer. As you go on, as you get more and more layers, it'll start to make sense as to why you want to name your layers. And it's also you can keep everything organized. So what you do is you go ahead and double click, and then you'll name your layer, and we'll do colored mountains. So once you're done with this image, you can go ahead and just X out of this tab. You don't need to save because you're not going to be using it anymore, and then you can move on to your next image. Which again, at the top, you click File, Open, and then you move on to your next image. So the next part of my image is I'm still working on the background, so I'm going to select, let's see here. I want to use the background of this sky right here. So I don't want these mountains, but I want the sky. So I'm going to open up this as my next image, and then I'm just going to crop out the sky. So remember, use your pen tool, then you can zoom in by pressing Command plus, and then you just follow along the line, and you crop out the part of the image that you want. So remember, once you get to the end, if you want to zoom out, it's Command minus, and then you got to make sure that your points come all the way back around to the first point. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and make a point up here, point over here, then I'm going to select my last point, and now it's selected. Remember, Control for right click, then you're going to go ahead and make a selection, click OK, and then we need to go ahead and select the Move tool, and then we're going to drag the background to our composition here. And then as you see, it's obviously very out of place, and I need to resize. So remember, Command T is going to allow me to resize my image. And I'm just going to go ahead and make this big, and I'm going to place it where it needs to be. Just here. Now, the one thing that we need to acknowledge here is now this is all kinds of weird, and I wanted the mountains at the very front of my layer. So as you see here on the right hand side, we have our layers. We have two different layers, and I want my sky to be in the background, and I want the mountains to be in front of the sky. So you just grab the layer that you want in front, and at the very top it'll be the one that is closest to you. So here I want my mountains in the very front, and I want my background, my sky in the back. So again, you got to make sure that whatever layer you want in front is at the very top. So here I'm going to rename my layer before I move on. Just name it sky. And then again, we can move on to our next image. Alright, so as I move to my next image, I'm going to go ahead and speed up the video and then complete my photo collage. Okay, so we have two things left to learn for our project. One is how to add text to our composition, and two, how to alter one of our images to change it from its original state. So we'll start with text. On the left hand side you have your toolbar, and about 3/4 of the way down you have this here is there's T. When you click on T, that is for the type tool, and when you click on it, a cursor is going to come up. you're able to click anywhere on your screen, and so if I click here, you'll have some words that pop up. So this is where you're going to be able to write. So you can just highlight what was already written, and then you can type in whatever you'd like. So I'm going to write Kanye loves Kanye. So after you're done typing, you can go ahead and click just right here below it, and you can move it around. You can resize the text by doing one of two things. One, you can highlight all the text, and you can go up here and change the font size, or you can hold the command button, and then these little squares will pop up, and then it'll allow you to resize. So here I like resizing like this because it allows me to go ahead and adjust it big or small without me having to fiddle around with the numbers up here. So once you're done resizing, you just let go of the command button, and then it finishes, and then of course you can move it to wherever it belongs. Now, along with your text, you can go ahead and change the font style right up here, and there's hundreds of fonts that are already loaded into Photoshop. You can also change them to be bold, regular, italicized, really up to you. And then you can of course change the text color. Now, in order to do any of these things, you do have to highlight the text first. So let's say I want to change the font style. I'll highlight the text. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick, let's do this fancy script. Let's see here. There we are. Kanye loves Kanye, and I really want it to pop, so let's see here. Let's do red, because red has been my theme. Then I'm actually going to size it down a little bit, so I can just tuck it right up here in the corner. See here? Voila. And let's just size it down just a little bit. Alright, last but not least is altering your image, an image that's already been used in your composition. So you're going to go ahead and go on the right hand side and look at all of your layers, and you're going to decide on what image you would like to alter or adjust. So I'm going to use the crying Kim here as my example. So I'm going to click on my layer, and once I've clicked on my layer, that indicates that I'm going to be adjusting the crying Kim. I'm going to go up to image. I'm going to go under adjustments, and I'm going to go ahead and click on one of these effects. So we have brightness, levels, curves, exposure, vibrance, hue and saturation, so on and so forth. Of course, I encourage you to go into each of these adjustments and play around with them to see what they do. But look at these as kind of like your Instagram filters, and each filter changes something about your image. And so I'm going to go ahead and click on brightness and contrast. So if I slide the little bar here and I look at the crying Kim, I can see that my image is changing. So you have freedom to change it how you'd like. And again, I encourage you to go in and kind of play with the different effects and different changes that you can make to all of your images. But once you have altered and changed, kind of played around with the effects of an image, you can go ahead and click OK, and voila, that's that. So once you're done with your entire composition and everything is all good to go, you can go up to the top, click File, Save As, and we're going to leave this the photo collage project with my RB, and then I'm going to save it to my desktop. So up here I'm going to click desktop, and then I'm going to go ahead and click format and leave it on Photoshop. I'm going to click save. So it says this one's already there. We're going to replace it and press OK. So now my project is saved, and for this part I am done. But if you are halfway through your project, you can save it to your desktop, save it to your OneDrive, and then when you come back to class next period, you bring it down from your OneDrive, continue working on it, and continue that process until you're done. When you're done, of course, as always, as I've been telling all of you, you must save all of your work to your OneDrive so that if in any case it is lost or I don't receive it, you can resubmit it with no issues. So to finish this up, I would go ahead and close out of Photoshop because I am done. And then I'm going to go into my OneDrive and save my project to my OneDrive so I could turn it in later. But other than that, that's it. Of course, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm always here to help you.